Welcome on in to the Pegasus Actual Podcast, guys. It's nice to see everybody. I know that we started late. Everybody kind of had stuff going on at the normal time, so we pushed back our starting about about 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and now we'll go ahead and we'll do the show, and it'll be a little longer, but. Apologies, guys, for being late, but you know how it is. So what I wanted to do is, of course, number one, introduce my esteemed panel. Always the most awesome co-host in the galaxy, Brian the Gravedigger, Script Doctor PhD, author Stephen Walton, and Bear Nerd Fun. We've got that going on. Wookiee Supremacy, what's up? George Peter Gatsis, what's up? Good to see you guys.
George!
Hashtag find Boxy, everyone.
Is DJ here yet? I didn't look. If DJ was here, we'd get a hashtag find Boxy.
Paula Patriots in the house. Good to see you, buddy. So I'm going to start off tonight. We kind of have some... it's a cool little tie-in. It's Battlestar news, but it's not actual like Battlestar news. This is for you gamers out there that enjoy. If you didn't know, there is a Battlestar Galactica video game out, and it is a strategy game called Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. Well, the latest DLC that they put out. Yeah, the latest DLC that they put out is pretty awesome. It ties it right in with if you saw Blood and Chrome, it ties in with that because they're talking about the Ghost Fleet, which you'll be familiar with if you know the story from Blood and Chrome. And I'll go ahead and screen share this. I wrote an article about it today.
Adega Outlaw would like to say hashtag find Boxy.
Yes, hashtag find Boxy. And guys, keep those Boxy theories coming. We're having a blast with those, obviously.
Listen, we're gonna find the actual Boxy, guys. We're gonna find his name. Script Doctor, what was his name?
I had it up here. It's Widows. His last name is Widows.
We're going to
Connor Widows.
Connor Widows. We're going to his name is Boxy, and we're gonna find him, and we're gonna ask him to come on.
Yes. We get Boxy on here. And we may or may not actually throw him out of an airlock ourselves. Oh my God. Oh, that's great. All right, so basically the Ghost Fleet Offensive DLC adds new ships and some new features and references some of the lore from 2012's Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome. Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome was a prequel to the reimagined Battlestar Galactica series. It was originally released as a web series on machinima.com, which, by the way, guys, that Machinima YouTube channel at one time used to be really awesome, and then I don't know what happened to it. It's like it just died. Well, part of it is I heard Machinima kind of went under, too, so that had something to do with it. But anyhow, Blood and Chrome was supposed to be a pilot for a possible series detailing the early adventures of a young Bill Adama during the First Cylon War, but the series was not picked up. Sci-Fi Channel aired Blood and Chrome again in 2013 as a television movie. The Ghost Fleet was a fleet of colonial ships that were hidden from the Cylons and staged for a primary strike. BSG Deadlock's new campaign follows the fleet going on a major offensive against the Cylons. And here's the official description from Steam, you guys. It says, strike from the shadows and bring the war to the toasters in the new Ghost Fleet Offensive campaign. Lead two new types of ships on the colonial side, the Orion and the Defender, which they got the design for the Colonial Defender out of this show. It's one of the fleet ships in, BSG that we're doing right now.
That's badass.
So yeah, they actually contacted the guy that made that model, and they got this ship put into the game. Ghost Fleet Offensive is accompanied by a major free update called the Fleet Admiral Update. And then, of course, I went on to sort of list the stuff that comes in the Fleet Admiral Update. You know, that's you get that regardless of if you get the DLC. And so I ended the article by saying, you know, if you haven't played Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, now is a great time to start. The core game is currently on sale this week only on Steam for $13.99. All of the previous DLC up to Ghost Fleet Offensive is also on sale. So yeah, you guys can get that by going to Steam. You know, obviously, if you guys are PC gamers, you know Steam. Everybody.
I'm only getting this if Wookiee Supremacy is getting it, because I want to fight alongside Wookiee Supremacy.
Nice.
That's what I want.
Nice. They have the thing with BSG Deadlock is it runs like it's a single player campaign, and it's an RTS. So you know, and you guys out there, you've played real time strategies before, so you know it is playing a campaign. So it's you against computer, and then the multiplayer in it is head to head. You go, it's 1 versus 1, fleet on fleet. So you know you can get a buddy. You go in and you can go head to head against one another.
You can dock head to head.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Well, docking.
Fucking hey, man. Oh, you know, I want to make an amendment to something I mentioned last week about Blizzard. I said StarCraft 2, the beginning of it was free. I didn't exactly understand how much of the beginning was. I got through the human campaign, like chapter 1, and that was it. I have to buy the rest of it. You have to buy the Zerg campaign and the Protoss campaign and then the extra campaign.
Okay.
But, well, no, I mean, but yeah, it did bit me good. It was a good strategy because I love StarCraft, and then I got to play it and get the feels back from from back in the day.
That's like it was almost like an extended demo.
Yeah, it's like an extended demo, but you get to play an entire campaign, which is a good deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, it's fair.
And I'm assuming you could get that on Steam or on.
I got it on Blizzard.
Yeah, on Blizzard launcher. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Drew,
so,
I'm sorry, Drew. I think Adega has a theory.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna get. To
that.
My
bad. My bad.
I was just gonna say, Adega is throwing our first boxy theory of the night.
We haven't even started the episode yet. We didn't even start the episode yet, Adega.
So Adega's got, and this is one of 2. It's not even completely finished. So Adega's over there feverishly typing the other paragraph, but he starts off with, okay, here's Boxy theory. The final 5 was a ruse. Boxy was the most ancient of Cylons, who were the origins of the Athena lore.
Word.
During a robotic sex change to hide his identity with the new generation. And now we're waiting on the rest of Adega's response. That's great.
Can someone archive these boxy theories onto like a blog spot somewhere? Like go back to the first episode of our review, record our theories, the stuff in the chat, throw them up on a blog for reference later.
Yeah, I have decided that's the only way to do it is going to be to go back because I've got a couple written down. Last week was great. DJ and Adega were great. So I have notes from last week, but we're going to have to go back and look at them because we're going to have to recap them and decide which one is the most plausible theory. Yes, the most appropriate.
CJ, welcome into the chat. And
we're gonna have a category for style too, though.
Yes,
you were having a Lord of the Rings marathon, CJ. Word is you have Hobbit feet, CJ.
But you're still taller than Pablo Hidalgo.
Yeah. Okay. And the second half of Adega's theory. Boxy lost his logic center and was found chewing on power cables while running naked around and sparks flying out of his anus in rainbow colors.
Wow, that's pretty descriptive.
Yeah.
Colorful.
He just had a rainbow sparkler up his ass.
We can't afford the budget.
Celebrating Bastille Day.
Did that hurt? That had to have hurt.
Jesus Christ, man, Ortega. Oh God. You know, if for everybody out there, if you don't follow Ortega Outlaw, man, Ortega's great. He's a fellow writer. I love him to death. He's put together a really good book. Make sure you guys support him, man.
Ortega has a book?
Yeah, Ortega does have a book.
I think he's also a retired physician as well.
Yeah, he is.
Ortega, if you would DM me on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, at Lodonis, Lodonis, send me a link to your book, man, because I'd like to take a look at it.
But the thing with Ortega is it's funny because he's usually so like buttoned up and proper when we're in one of PJ's chats or something. We're doing something big and official, and right. I love when he comes in here. And Ortega just cuts loose, man. And then you get him and Odyssey together. It's like, God. So
it's a true safe space in our chat. Anything goes, pretty much.
No, this is the unsafe space.
No, you're not going to get ridiculed for what you say. You're good. That's safe. It's an unsafe space is what the actual safe spaces are in the universities and that, where you can't say anything. This thing here, because the stuff that DJ and Ortega put out. Please go back and watch the previous episodes we've covered and take a look at the chat replay. My word, you will not regret it.
There's one more O in there, Ortega. It's Lodonis. Thank you, Supreme Heretic. I want to check that book out. I love PJ. PJ has that effect. I love going on his show, but it's like taking Xanax.
It's like
chill.
You get really chill, and you make sure to be like kind of more proper,
right?
And everything, and then we come over here, and it's like a rogues gallery. But that's all right. It's all good.
Honestly, you guys go check out DJ's channel sometime. Those guys get pretty. Crazy too.
DJ Odyssey as well, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
So
I'm pretty much just myself all the time.
You just
Well, Bear, you're definitely one of a kind, sir. Oh man. So to give everybody an idea of the episode, tonight we're doing episode 8, Flesh and Bone. This is a really big Katie episode. This is also a big episode for the actor Callum Keith Rennie that played Leoben.
Leoben, yes.
And there's a fair good amount of President Roslin in this episode too. So
and a little bit the understory with Baltar and Six.
And we do get a cutaway to Cylon occupied Caprica and Hilo and Athena. So
Hilo cops a feel of Athena. Did you catch that?
Yeah, you're right.
What's that?
Yeah, Hilo grabs Athena's left boob when they're about to run. I got a screen capture. I threw it on Twitter.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I would be grabbing that too.
Yeah. I can't.
No kidding.
And I'm very upset that I only got to see my future ex-wife Candace McClure twice in this episode. Only twice. She only had a few lines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of awesome lines from this one that were deleted. That Candace is talking about her sex life. So
what?
Definitely have to find a way to shoot you those.
Oh, Brian. Oh, I love you.
Yeah.
So you
awesome.
wanna. So this week, Script Doctor, do you want to go ahead and lead us into the episode discussion?
Sure. So this week's episode, it's technically like a bottle episode. It's a single location, mostly focuses on another ship has found a Cylon, one that was reported earlier in the series from the president, identifying who they were. So at this point here, we have a conflict. The president's been having some dreams about this particular Cylon. She makes the excuse that's a result of the cancer treatment she's taking, but it could be something more. We don't know yet. But when she is informed that there is a Cylon now being held prisoner aboard one of the ships, she wants it interrogated. And Adama is like, no, we got to kill this thing. I know the MO of this type of model. He's just going to try and get in our heads. We better not worry about it. Just, I'll send a team over and take care of it. Rosalind really wants to interrogate the Cylon, thinking that it'll have some useful information. And Adama acquiesces by sending in Starbuck to conduct the interrogation. He gives her the prep. He tells her what to do, and we see that they still haven't cleaned the blood off the Cylon Raider that they're working on there, as they've been discovering more of that. That bugs me. I'm sorry to take a detour there, but just all that blood leaking out by the eye and the side of its head just bothers me.
Did you notice it's getting darker though?
Yes.
Okay.
Wouldn't it start to stink after a while? Brian?
Yeah, I'm surprised the goo inside hasn't started drying up without any nutrients or things to
It's kind of alive. It's just it's brain dead is what it is.
Yeah,
that's disgusting.
Yeah, so essentially they're jumping inside of a brain dead person and using it like a freaking mech suit. So yeah.
Yep, it's a puppet now.
Yeah, they're just stepping on organs and it's causing reactions.
It's a meat puppet.
It's like the episode of Rick and Morty's Pickle Rick, where he gets the cockroach and he starts using his tongue to hit certain parts of the brain to get it to move. That's what Starbuck's doing with the Cylon Raider. Ronald D. Moore came up with that concept first. And Rick and Morty stole that, allegedly. So the majority of the episode is a pretty intense interrogation between Starbuck and this Cylon, whose name I keep forgetting because... Leoben, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty neat how Starbuck is kind of recognizing the limitations of Leoben as a machine. Like, she's fascinated that he sweats, that he has hunger, that he can feel pain, all these things to mimic humanity, and she tries to sort of play with him about how humans are flawed and that he doesn't have to suffer in this manner. And there's a philosophical debate because from the Cylon's perspective, there's only one God, and from the human's perspective, there's the Lords of Kobol, which is Athena and Artemis, I think. And there's a little bit of a back and forth between that. The dialogue is very exposition heavy, but they use some really good wording to have fun with it. It's not ham-fisted. It's slowly chipping away at other truths. And I like the little battle of wits that they have between these two characters, where one's lying because he says that he planted a nuclear bomb on one of the ships and it's going to go off at 1830 hours. And that forces the fleet to start carefully searching each and every ship for radiological devices in case what this Cylon has said is true. And Kara is trying... Yeah, Kara Thrace, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Getting all my names mixed up in my head here. So Starbuck is trying to get information as to where this nuke is, while also exploring a little bit of the Cylon, and the Cylon is just trying to get inside of her head. And it's a really cool set of scenes. The B plot is Baltar has supposedly completed his Cylon detector, and Boomer wants to be the first person to be tested because she has reservations about possibly being a Cylon, so much so that she talks to Chief about it, and he, doesn't like the idea of her even insinuating such a thing. But you can kind of tell from their interactions that he's just trying to be in denial. He probably knows that she's a Cylon, and she thinks she's definitely probably a Cylon, and she wants an answer. And we have a nice little sub-story there. And that's kind of it for now. There is an ending to it, but I don't want to get to that type of stuff yet. Let's start going around the panel and getting everybody else's takes of the A story between Starbuck and the Cylon. So
Silent.
Brian.
Well,
Everybody-
there was three different things going on. One, the president having dreams about Leoben, and Leoben's fascination with Starbuck. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
verbal play going back and forth between them. And Adama's right. He is a master manipulator. He was being tortured, and it wasn't even phasing him, wasn't bugging him, because
Oh
it was a
yeah.
big
There's
game.
when he finally shows his hand and he's like, "This really isn't nothing." It's like, but yeah, he's a machine. But like this is honestly the first experience of this is the Leoben that keeps coming back and haunting her the whole time later on through the rest of the series. So we're gonna, I guess, figure out a name for whatever this Leoben's gonna be. But
So pretty much, it's setting a precedence the way Cylons interact with humans in this series. It's sort of set it's set a tone, a tone and a visual to a degree of how the Cylons were going to be responding. And there's
Yeah,
layers. There's layers.
well, yeah, they all have their different quirks, and this does a great job of like kind of setting up. It gives you an idea of how the Leoben models work. With what their sort of makeup is. They're very they're very, I guess, honed in on like playing the human game of chess, essentially.
They're the Cedars of Doubt, right? That's
Yeah, sort of. But they're definitely they're the ones that weave in truth, but at the same time disinformation. So
yeah, they're definitely not concerned at all about reproduction like most of the other models.
Well, what's
Yeah.
interesting about him is that the truth he speaks of is usually about people, but not about, or about an individual that they're speaking with, but not about anything outside of that. So everything he's telling to Kara, but that he knows about Kara, is kind of truthful. But the stuff that he's talking about with, about the nuke and about himself and the Cylons, that's all lies, and that's kind of how you can recognize his pattern.
Mhm.
And that's something you have to be quite sensitive to. Which, I mean, on a rewatch, like for most of us right now, we kind of know what's going on in the end. But when you're first watching it, it's a little trickier to pick up on. It's not until later on in the series that we'll start to see the pattern of what he's saying.
This episode sets up so well the dynamic between Kara and Leoben, because there's so much more to come from here, and they have a complicated relationship where it's like kind of he's very curious about her, but at the same time he knows that there's an aura to her where she's different, and he's trying to get to the bottom of that and figure it out. He doesn't understand why exactly, he's bonded to this person in this way, but he damn sure wants to figure it out. And you get to really see that start to form here in their first initial interaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The whole theme of the show really centers around Leoben, I think. The tone, no matter what character or what scene you're in, is something Adama says when he warns Rosalind about him. Just flush him out the airlock, get rid of him, because he's it's not that he lies, he mixes lies with truth. And so it seems like every scene within this episode, with the exception of the dream sequences, had to deal with that theme. And also the overall question of this show, of this episode, which is one of my favorites. This is one of the ones that I watch a few times.
Oh yeah, same.
Is Yeah, but the real question is Starbuck going to have to choke a bitch? That's what this episode should have been called. The episode was misnamed. That's the only gripe that I have. It should have been called, Is Starbuck going to have to choke a bitch?
Dude, they waterboarded somebody on
Yeah,
TV.
they did.
Got away with it.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Moira?
Yeah, if you remember back at the time, guys, because this is around 2003 or so.
This is 2004, right after the
Yeah.
Guantanamo Bay stuff.
So this was in the news. This was a big hot button issue. People were talking about torture because they had the whole Abu Ghraib thing and all that. And
I think it's just because people didn't know what they were looking at the time.
And yeah, this was a big deal, and they tackled it right on TV. But the thing is one way or the other, and this is the difference with Battlestar. And we go back, we're having this debate about Star Trek, Picard, and the way that writing is gone. But this here, it did the same thing in a lot of ways as Star Trek. It presented social issues dead on the nose of the day, but by and large, now there were sometimes that this series got preachy, and I'll rightly call it out for that, because there were times, but it wasn't over the top. It wasn't in every single episode. They weren't preaching to the audience. They more oftentimes than not showed you something and left it up to the audience to decide which way that you fell on that particular social issue.
It also plugged into the psyche of the country at the time, because really the question of dealing with terrorists and dealing with terrorists in our midst has a lot to do with the theme in the early part of the show.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the ticking clock that was established by Leo Barn by saying, like, oh yeah, in 8 hours, someone's going to die. It's like, okay, you got a ticking clock. You got to get that information somehow. What tactic do you use? And in this episode here, Kara took the tactic of violence as opposed to one that was a bit more compassionate, which is what Rosalind did at the end. And then she had her own about face, as it were. But it's actually quite brilliant, because that's the one thing you sort of I've learned in my own research, is that interrogators, they know that if you torture a person, you'll not get anything you need out of them. But if you find a way to bridge a gap and get them to talk with candor, you'll get actual information that's really useful, as opposed to hearing information that you want to hear because it fits your own personal narrative.
Which also brings me to the next gripe that I have with this episode is not only should it have been called, Is Starbuck going to have to choke a bitch, but it also should have had an end. Does Rosalind have to flush a bitch?
Flip a switch, yeah.
Because the ladies in this episode were mean. They were very mean.
They were ruthless, man. There was no screwing around this episode. People were flat out ruthless. And I like that too, because this is one of those that quickly established. This wasn't like wine and roses, like at the time, like, because we had Star Trek at the time, that the Federation definitely had rules of engagement and things and whatnot. But this was completely different, because those are out the window. They're in the middle of a war. They're in the middle of what they perceive as terrorists running loose in their midst. And it was anything goes, man. And PJ, thank you for the great comment. These breakdowns of BSG are fantastic, guys. And he gives the clap emoji. Thank you, sir. And
Hail Orville Nation. Thank you.
Very, very good work, PJ, with what you've been doing lately. You've been on fire with the interviews and everything.
Orville, listen, maybe you can help us with this, because you seem to be plugged into Hollywood like that. We're trying to literally find Boxy.
Connor Windows, or Widows,
Yes.
sorry.
Connor Widows, all right? But when you contact him, call him Boxy and tell him that we want to have him on.
Is it Connor with a K or Connor with a C?
I'm putting his IMDb in the chat.
We want to throw him out an airlock.
Right.
Well, is that how we're going to end every interview if we get him on? It's like, okay, Boxy, time to go to the airlock, and then that's the show. End of the show.
Yeah.
Feel free to put the next theory in the chat. Just clean it up slightly. But yeah, big props to PJ and big hello to Moira Kitty. I see her lurking about the chat.
Hey, Moira, thanks for coming.
Great to see her. The thing.
Excuse me. Sorry.
The thing that's interesting with this is, there's that standard when they sit down. Like he has Starbuck unnerved from like. Well, that's fine if it's long a day. Go ahead. It doesn't matter. but he has Starbuck unnerved like from the jump. You could tell because she's like, you can read her body language. She's like fidgety and whatnot, and she's trying to be cool and calm and collected. But yeah, it's he's got her rattled almost from the jump, and Leoben knows that.
Yes. Well, real quick, if we can jump back just a little bit to the dream sequence, because I found that interesting, of course, because I know where that's leading to. But the whole sequence of her, Rosalind, running through a dark forest and then seeing Leoben and him telling her to be quiet, and then she's being chased by, what are they, riot police or of some kind? She's being
I
chased
think it's supposed to be the military because they're in the same type of gear that's on the outside the airlock.
Okay.
Protecting her, yeah.
Yeah. So she's being chased by them, and then when they pass by, Leoben says shh to her, and then just disappears and just flushes right into the stars, just woof, gone.
If they were wearing black, they're Marines.
Why is it got to be black?
Black clothing, the Marines.
I know that.
The ones that guard.
Sorry, I say that
detail of the story.
It is an important detail. It is absolutely, and it's just like it's important to note that Script Doctor is the whitest guy on this panel.
Yep.
Hashtag Script Doctor so white. Okay.
He's how we set our white balance on our cameras. Come on.
That's right. Yep. It's helpful too.
Yeah.
And if you ever need to chroma key anything, I've got the blue, so you can put something in my chest if you want.
Oh man! So Adega sent me a Boxy theory via Twitter.
Did he?
And this is funny. It was discovered that the best cancer meds for the president needed boyhood joy fluid. Boxy quickly became the favorite toy of the medical staff in an effort to make as much medicine for the president as possible.
Hashtag milk Boxy.
During his time in the hospital, Boxy became quite adept at using when his body was tapped dry of all his man juice. He set up shop with his new needle skills making tattoos. But secretly, he ran a heroin delivery shop in the back of the tattoo parlor.
Damn. Boxy sounds rugged.
Boxy was going dark. We knew he was going dark.
God, man, Adega. Good Lord. You're that's the craziest one yet. That's one of the craziest ones yet, my God. Jeez, oh man.
We're gonna have a lot to review at the end of the season.
Yes, we are.
You think? So
Well, we owe one extra episode anyway, just to get everything back on the numbers, right?
yeah.
Do we?
Wait. What?
I thought we made up for it.
We did, yeah.
Well, we pushed two together, but now we're off numerically.
Oh, because this is our episode 7, but we're covering episode 8.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's going to be other ones that are 2-parters that we'll nail in one.
Yeah, there's no way we could have done a 2-parter with this one. There's a lot of really cool interactions in this episode.
Is anybody going to allude to the fact of Boomer in this one humming the lullaby to the Raider?
Oh yeah, she damn near making love to it.
Yeah,
she was petting it.
She was completely unaware she was doing it.
Yeah, and the Chief now, he really knows she's a Cylon.
Right?
Nah, she snapped too when she saw the Chief. She knew what she was doing in a way.
Yeah, and
this is before she goes and asks for that test.
yeah, and don't forget the one to the where she goes and visits Baltar to get a quote unquote Cylon test.
Be one of the first round, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the Chief is like one of those people, man or woman, that has a partner who's crazy and just makes excuses and is completely blind to it, because the Chief has known through actions that she's done, Boomer has done. Boomer is definitely questionable. No, Boomer is definitely a Cylon. She walks up to him and says, you know I'm a Cylon, right? And he's like, what? What?
What?
The Chief is delusional right now. He does not want to. He still loves this woman and does not want to accept the fact that she's a Cylon, to the point where she can say it to him, and he's like, "No, what?"
Pretty much.
Like, Terrell, come on, buddy, get with it. But oh, never mind. I was going to skip it. Almost skipped ahead. Sorry.
Well, no,
That's Cylon booty, man.
But that's a good point, guys, because you gotta figure, and even without spoiling later on what's coming down the pike for the Chief, even then, knowing what he knows, like just the ridiculous lengths that he goes for Boomer is just like inexplicably stupid.
Yeah, he put it in crazy, and he's in denial, complete denial.
Yeah, and we'll get into that because there's a lot of craziness even in the later seasons with the Chief and Boomer. And
I love later seasons too.
Yeah, the Chief is unstable.
yeah, he is.
That's
like 10-year Scotch Chief,
Yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, so they're having an interaction where Boomer tells him, treat the Raider like an animal rather than a machine, like last episode. And so Tyrell is desperate, like he knows now that she's a Cylon, and he's kind of sort of keeping his distance and whatnot. So of course Boomer goes to see Baltar, and Boomer reminds him that she saved his life on Caprica, and that Hilo, stayed behind just so he could be here. And that's how Boomer ends up being one of the first tests, because she's trying to clear her name, obviously.
Well, she had also said to the Chief back on the hangar deck after she said, I'm a Cylon, right? She said, if I could prove that I wasn't, would that make a difference between us? Honestly, I think on a level, she's still in love with him, and I think that he's still in love with her. And I think that has to do more with the distance. That's why I joke about the Cylon aspect, because he's in denial about that. I think he's more concentrating on not having a relationship with her because of the questionable things she's done, and just excusing all of the facts that point to her being a Cylon. She's messed up in the head. That's where I'm coming from.
Well, she's having an identity crisis at this point, so yeah.
And she explains like her cover identity life, that her entire family died in a mining accident supposedly that destroyed most of the colony that she lived on, and this and that. And then the test comes up and shows all the red dots that she's a Cylon. But this is where we see a beautiful interaction from Trisha, by the way, where she said, she doesn't know what she is, and of course, if she finds out, she's likely to kill you right then and there.
Oh yeah, the temptations were great.
The look on his face when she tells him that, and then Baltar's kind of like hitting the machine to like
that's when the freak out begins.
Yeah, and then Baltar like looks at Boomer and says, "Yeah, you're human, 100% human."
Green, light green, very green, extremely green.
Extremely green.
He's so scared peeing himself he don't want to die.
That was so good.
Whenever it's his ass in the sling, he'll come through and deliver. But he was going to report her up to that. Like when he knew he was going to die, it was like, oh crap. Okay, I need to do something.
Yeah, that delivery on that like little explanation though from Trisha was just so like you could give that a chef's kiss. Like she delivered that little diatribe to him so well. It just the look on his face was priceless. So big shout out to both Trisha Helfer and James Callis for that interaction, because that's one of the best like little scenes of the episode when they have that interaction.
Absolutely.
So, all right, guys. Who wants to go a little further and explain? When we cut back to the rest of the interrogation.
Well, right from the outset of the interrogation, she says, "What's your mission here?" And he's like, "What's your name? What's your mission here?" That whole exchange, and then he figures out, he just says, "You're Captain Kara Thrace, aren't you?" And then she comes back into the room, and he says, "Now it's going to be easier to talk between us." So she says, "What's your mission here?" And he just blurts out, "My mission is to commit sabotage." Or I think it might have been before he asked the name, but like he just blurts it right out.
But that was truthful too, which is what are you doing? It's all mental sabotage.
And then the next thing he follows it up. Go ahead.
Psychological manipulation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the next thing that he says is, "I planted a nuclear warhead on one of your ships." Truth and a lie. So the interaction between those two. Hold on, I gotta bring it up. Give me 1 second, y'all. Of Battlestar Galactica episode "Is Starbuck gonna have to choke a bitch?" She orders the food next is what happens, isn't it?
Yep.
While he's sitting there.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Somebody can go ahead and lead into that.
Okay.
Well, she continues just to eat the food and just slowly kind of taunting him while eating. And the way I understand it, he has not eaten in quite a while. He was hungry.
In days.
Yeah. Days. And so she just taunting him, just poking him in the rib here and there with some verbal comments here and there.
I know, and then acting like it wasn't shit. Like she says, "Oh God, I thought the food on Galactica was bad." Just tosses it aside while he's sitting there just starving.
Yep.
Yeah, she also reports back to Commander Adama before that secondary scene with the lunch starts.
Oh.
Yeah.
She calls and gets the pep talk.
That's
when Adama tells her, "No, he's just playing with your head."
Adega Outlaw had something to say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say there's another boxy theory where we're at a good pause.
So incoming another boxy theory, guys. Boxy theory. Boxy had a natural talent for piloting. He was trained to fly shuttles through the fleet. However, settling for shuttle flights didn't sit well with him and quickly lost its fun. During one late night when the Vipers were unattended, he snuck in, taking a seat in the cockpit. An emergency deployment hit, and he wasn't noticed until after the mission. He later had to have his head surgically removed from Lieutenant Lardbutt's backside. He remains blind to this day.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his sense of smell forever ruined.
Oh God, man! Christ.
Hey, his depth perception was just a little bit off, man.
Oh God,
Yeah.
man! We're just off and rolling with the theories, man.
Well, props to Lieutenant Lardbutt for making it back alive
Exactly.
with a
Right.
boxy up his ass while he's fighting combat, because that could not have been comfortable.
Exactly.
Just felt like a thong.
All right, so if you want to continue on the next thing, pick it up from after Starbuck got the pep talk. Go ahead, Brian, if you want.
That's when we go into the scene where they share the meal and she lets him eat it. Where she says it's worse than Battlestars, and just as soon as he gets a mouthful of it swallowed, he starts getting pistol whips.
That's right.
It's when the
Go
torture
wham!
begins.
Starbuck looked at dude and just said, "Nod." Like she does this shit all the time. She's like, "You know what to do," and then dude just whacks the crap out of him.
Well, like if you pay attention, like when she first walked in, she was still limping a little bit.
Mhm.
But when she comes back in, she's got the ice cold Starbuck. She's the dead look in her eyes, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
The dead look. Yeah.
Stripper look, right? Stripper eyes,
Yeah.
right?
Listen, I don't know what it was about.
Well, no, not quite stripper.
I
she's
think-
she's still functioning there.
I think it was the knock your head off your shoulders look in her eye.
Listen to me. I don't know if it's my penchant for being beaten by sexy women, but I'll tell you what. Starbuck looked hot as hell in this episode. Like I think it's one of the reasons I love this episode. Her attitude and the close-ups, all the face close-ups on this, between her and Leoben. You know, I think it was the way that they captured the scenes. But gosh, she's a gorgeous woman. I'm sorry, I was indulging myself. I thought she was hot. The acting was on point, and every facial inflection. Yeah, every facial inflection that she had was just great. This was well acted scene, and she was sexy doing it. That's all I wanted to say. True, it was magic. Because I didn't have a lot of Candace in this one. That's what meant that I wanted a little more Candace. We got to wait a couple seasons. I know we can't jump ahead. Somebody please pick up on this story because I'm running out of shit to say.
I just want to see how far you're going to go.
No, we're gonna let you run, man.
I would have gone far if Bodega Outlaw was the only one in the chat.
No, you sufficiently supplied your own length of rope. Keep going.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the beatings. How soon after was the water torture, Brian?
After she attacked him. Or after he attacked her.
Oh, that's
yeah.
right.
We have between those two little scenes, we have the short scene where Boomer comes in and demands to be tested by Baltar.
Yep.
Which is great.
Oh, yeah.
We got to see. God, guys, I'm so tired. I cannot think of anything right now. I'm trying. 6. What are we calling her now? Angel 6.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, we got to see Angel 6 a little bit, and I mean, she's always nice to see. The subplot.
Angel 6 in the red dress.
Yes, in the red dress. The subplot with Baltar's, helps to move this. It's a good subplot because it helps to move the story along from a previous one into the next one with the Cylon detector and finding out that it does work eventually, and that something we already knew that Sharon, the Sharon model, the Sharon is a Cylon. But the banter, I think we were discussing it already before, but the banter between Angel 6 and Baltar, do you think she'll activate and snap your head off?
she can activate and snap your neck.
Yeah.
She definitely likes to taunt him.
Yes, and as we find out in this episode a little later on, Cylons do seem to have more strength than a human.
Oh yeah, they do have enhanced strength. Like all the models have advanced strength programmed in. So
Well, we know they have some hardware in there because their spine glows when they're in the throes of passion.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah. So they might
Well,
have like a
then,
metal exoskeleton with, they might be just Terminator-ish, and that metal
Yeah.
exoskeleton with some biological organs and things inside. And
our relationship is not sexual in nature.
oh god,
It's just for science.
I think I have to disagree with that because I think the red is biological, a machine biological in nature. Because if you watch, there was what is it, Blood and
Ecological.
Chrome? They showed some of the
yeah.
bloody workrooms where they were developing procedures on how to create biological Cylons.
Yeah, that Blood and Chrome definitely.
And yes,
to that.
and I have it. It's great.
Do you think she's
can't wait to get a hard copy of it. I might have a hard copy somewhere.
Bear? Do you think that that she is in the throes of passion right now, or do you think she's like, dude, just grab my tit? Because Hilo looks pretty excited about what's going on right now.
This is like one of the best screen grabs ever, man. Seriously.
Yeah, this segues to the next scene right here where she's checking his pulse while he's asleep.
Yeah, I did the.
He checked hers.
Yeah, I did the. Yeah, he was checking for a heartbeat.
Apparently he thought the pulse was routed through there.
Yeah, no, he was just checking for a heartbeat.
Full body temperature.
Script Doctor, you took this screenshot. Could you walk us through what this scene is?
Well, Sharon here has informed the other two Cylons, her compatriots, that she nailed Hilo, and then she starts running back to Hilo to tell him that the Cylons are coming and we got to get out of here faster than normal. And while she's in a panicking, he's trying to sort of grasp the situation, no pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
And while she's about to run away, he reaches out to bring her back to him so that he can talk, and catches some boob instead of catching the shoulder, which is what we all know he was supposed to do on set. But she either stepped too early or he followed up too late. Timing was not right. But the production decided to keep this take, and it's all to our benefit now.
Yes, I think this is as intended.
Yeah, great.
Oh, yeah. This is when Sharon finally gets kicked out of the Cylon clique.
My question is, when you grab her breast, does she sneeze? Because she looks like she's about to let one loose.
Yeah.
She was in mid-word there, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I'd rather be a sneeze than the other option, it looks like.
and right on cue, and Dana comes up with yet another Boxy theory. Boxy theory. Boxy was a hip DJ with all the right tones and skill to keep the kids jamming. Groupies became numerous and free with their love. Boxy quickly ran out of qubits to pay for all the child support on a DJ's info.
He's distraught.
Oops.
Boxy was a pimp.
Yeah, he was. He was, apparently.
So was Hilo. He could just grab random breasts out of nowhere, and it's good. They don't even talk about it or nothing.
Well, this was before the age of Me Too, guys. So he was confident that Sharon was not going to Me Too him for that.
Well, they just had sex, so he's kind of got
carte blanche
permission. Yeah,
he's got carte blanche,
so to speak.
This was before you had to sign the consent release.
So,
hey, Sith Lord's in the chat. How you doing, Sith Lord?
Hey, what's up, Sith
Lord?
Hey, Sith Lord. We're looking at inappropriate pictures that Script Doctor took of the episode. Welcome.
Well, we can make this a thumbnail for the show if we want today.
Oh my God.
You know what?
This is the best ever.
The boobining.
That has to happen. The boobining? Is that what you said?
The boobining.
Oh God, where were we after he grabs her tit? I think that's the last we. That's the last we see of them.
That's the last we see of them in this episode because perhaps Hilo was killed afterwards.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only interaction. It's
give me your sperm, human.
Sharon meets with Aaron Doral and Six in an abandoned playground, and she basically just says that she had sex with Hilo, and while she thinks that Hilo loves her, he hasn't really said it yet. The two Cylons reveal that they're building a cabin nearby, and Sharon is to convince Hilo to build a life with her there, or to kill him, which Sharon says, okay, I'll do that one way or the other. After leaving the other Cylons, Sharon starts to think about Hilo, and after she gets the Hilo, you get to where they had this interaction here, and that's when she says, hey, we got to run and just fast.
And her reward for this, her reward for deciding not to milk this human male for the next however long, was to be sexually assaulted as she was trying to save his life. I am very offended.
Yep. he said, okay, I get that. Oh man, Thomas.
Notice how he's trying to make eye contact with her. He's not going. His eyes aren't following.
I think he's trying to hit it right there.
I think that's the only reason they didn't file paperwork on him is because his name is so hard to spell. Timo Pennicott?
Oh, Pennicott, yeah.
I think that he's sensing a hot...
2 T's, 3 T's.
Is there a Q in there?
No, it's easy. It's Tomo, Tahmoh, and then Pennicott, Penikett.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, not for human resources. That's not easy to spell.
Drew, I'm glad that you took that away, because I was about to say that I think that he saw this hot woman very panicked that he had just slept with and was again aroused, and that is why the groping occurred.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's like every guy's dream, hot Asian wife. I mean, come on. Everybody needs a hot Asian wife. Hashtag hot Asian wife.
Hashtag hot Asian wife. Yes, sir. I'm bringing a picture up for you right now because it's your favorite.
So
we got to keep an eye out for more Hilo passes in this series, I guess.
So it's good to see you.
He's a handy one.
Thomas Connolly, thank you for throwing that extra little tweet out there for the stream. You're a good supporter, sir, and we appreciate you.
Hail, Thomas. Yeah.
One day we may grope you in a rush.
Hey.
But that's after we find Boxy.
It might happen. Stephen, if we're ever running from something apocalyptic, I am going to reach out and grab your man boob, sir.
Oops, thank you.
Groping, is that a thing? Yeah, apparently it's a thing now. We got to keep our eyes out for more gropings in the show.
Groping.
I bet you we'll find a few.
Well, all right.
Maybe a mysterious hand out of nowhere. We're like, oh, that's Boxy.
Damn it, Boxy.
Oh man, you gotta see it one
Damn
more.
It, boy.
Okay. Oh man. All right.
The only thing more fun than seeing that was all the scenes where Starbuck is watching these two what are they, Marines dunk Leoben's head into a vat of water like over and over again and just talking shit.
I like how it's a painted planter, like a pottery planter that they just painted silver and filled up with water.
Did you notice at one point they were just holding him down and they held him there, and it's like would seem like 10 minutes later they let him up.
Well, they look at her and go, "Ma'am," and he's like, "No, not yet." Damn.
She was straight up. She was straight up.
He was getting off on it.
Yeah, he got calm at one point and just was like, "Yep, reset."
Yeah, she was straight up like, "No, continue." Kara was not screwing around this episode.
No. She viewed him as an object, and through this short time of this episode, you see a change in her perspective on a couple levels, which lets you know that there was a connection that was made between the two of them. And even on a religion, we've never seen Thrace be religious at all before this. And at the end of this episode, she prays.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. That was a big key, Stephen. Yeah, that's a good thing that you pointed out there. The Sith Lord says, "What the hell's going on about Muppet?" He wants to know where's Muppet. Oh man, that's great.
He was spotted at the local 7-Eleven.
Yeah, a day said to continue on his Boxy DJ theory. Boxy's distraught lovers ran to Baltar for his religious support.
Gag support.
Boxy remains on the run.
Hold on, you can't bring up the cult of Gaius yet. You wait until that season comes up, man. That's good.
That was epic. That was epic, man. It's like, he's got a whole like religious harem.
Oh,
that's the best ever.
I hate Baltar. I hate Baltar so much. I don't understand how this weasel got made.
No.
Yeah, he's shorter than every woman he's ever seen.
It may look like heaven, man, but you know what? That's not heaven, dude. That's like having like hundreds of wives and trying to keep them happy.
Well, first you have to remember all their names, and that's hard enough.
Yeah.
Then you just treat them like Starbuck treated Leoben in this episode, and you're golden. You're golden. They will not.
Oh no, he flips that table and slams her up against the wall too.
Oh, that's right. He does. He does do that, doesn't he, Brian?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the end of this scene.
Could you explain that to the people listening?
Basically, for the people at home, they're shit talking back and forth, and he's trying to explain how human he is, and he wipes his blood on the table, and he says, "You realize I could do this?" Like he said it like a couple of minutes before, and he finally just snaps the chains and flips this gigantic steel table and slams her up against the wall and holds her there and jams with his free hand, mind you, jams the door, like the steel door shut, so that the security, the Marine on the other side cannot come through and enter the room.
That's strength.
I can't even remember off the top of my head what he says to her, but
that was
a reality check.
Yeah. Because he basically flipped the script on her and said, you think you're in control here, but you ain't the one in control.
Oh yeah, he broke his chains. He tossed that table and just slammed her against the wall in a very.
We keep getting excited about the waterboarding that hasn't happened yet.
At which point the episode then became Leoben had to choke a bitch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Leoben came through.
Yeah.
And then he was turning the scales on him.
Well, he was scared.
Then after that, they're holding his head underwater.
Right, all over again. But he was in a very precarious predicament while he was there because he didn't know if a resurrection ship was close enough. So all of his religious talk at the time, I think that was him internally trying to work through that problem psychologically while using it to manipulate his interrogators.
Yeah. God damn, that's an outstanding point. Yes, that's that's a very good way to look at it too, because obviously, what we know about the Cylons, if there's a resurrection ship out of range, they're SOL. They're just dead.
Yep.
Because if they got nothing to download into, well, piece of chicken grease, they're done.
Yeah, all that information, all that experience is gone, right? Because it would still transmit, but it just might not even ever reach that ship, because that ship could move, and then the transmission doesn't go near it. So yeah, it's a lost soul.
Which is the funny thing is that like all these Cylons that get booted off during the first season when they're out of range still have the ability to come back again. So that always made me wondered about having the Raider on the ship. If that was like a temporary memory bank that it just kind of buffered around to when they finally got close to a
like something with
star.
Like something with a more powerful transmitter might be on that.
Yeah.
It's just weird how like that was the biggest thing during this first season. So you're out of range, and then like fuck all if they don't come back later. It's like, oh, this one again, yay!
Mhm.
It's just like they were never out of range in the first place.
And don't forget, Leoben tells Starbuck that you know the fleet actually will find Cobalt and
Mhm. Yeah.
so
Mhm.
so he does tell her that. So that's a very big key for this episode too.
Right, but Leoben also tells her that I am God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that
I'm
one?
the walrus.
Yep. Remember that too. Yeah. It but I thought it was a particular interest that he told her that, correctly predicted they'll find Cobalt and Earth. And then we get to that sort of second dream sequence, and this is about there's about less than an hour left till the bomb goes off,
Right.
supposedly. So Rosalind decides to go over to the ship where Leoben and Starbuck are at and see him herself. And so Rosalind.
Hey, Drew, what prompted her to do that?
The dream sequence.
Yeah,
I think
the dream.
And Leoben said, I have something to tell you. And then she woke up.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
We
was,
also have
Pretty
Guys
powerful
is-
motivation to go talk to him, I'd say.
Yeah.
reveal of Boomer.
Oh,
Happens
yeah.
Before that,
Yeah. Oh, it's all
Yeah.
green. It's all green. It's really green.
panic attack.
He's such a worm.
We've already drilled on that one for a good 5 minutes, so because it's an awesome scene. You can't deny that one.
Yeah.
no, it's a great scene. I love that.
That I believe this was it was around the time when this was airing live was when I started watching, and I was like, what the flying hell is going on? It did like it. Coming in blind, just watching this episode alone, I was like, wow, this is weird. I like it. Then I started hearing all the made up cuss words, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm sold. It's definitely interesting. They're doing something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll still say frack over.
Yeah, I still say frack that time.
Me too.
Out in public, I'll say frack more often.
And I've heard it in a couple other shows. I've heard it used.
Yeah.
Yeah, it caught on.
It definitely had a good spread.
On too. That was great. So basically, Rosalind stops the torture and sort of, goes with the carrot approach, and it's kind of she's real like nice to Leoben and whatnot, very calming, speaking to him in a very calming manner. Leoben admits finally there's no bomb, and he says that Starbuck's right. He's afraid he is too far away to download, and he just made up a lie. And then this is a very interesting misinformation play in this episode, guys. And it really had people worked up for a while, like just into the show. Because Leoben whispers into Rosalind's ear, Adama is a Cylon.
Yep.
And early on, I remember when I was watching this show, we had a fuck ton of people, that had immediately come over to the forums afterwards. And people were just shocked. They're like, oh my God, is Adama really a Cylon? Oh my God. And people were freaking hell out.
Oh my God.
And
I'm
yeah.
so glad I missed out on that.
And it was one of those things where I kind of always felt like, okay, this is a misinformation play when he was telling her that, but it's funny the way Rosalind took it, because she didn't really know herself. So at that point in time when whispers that in her ear, she's sort of like shaken for a second, like because you could see the look on her face, and then she says, "Okay, throw him out the airlock."
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Rosalind is a beast. Oh my
Well,
god.
yeah.
She don't mess
In
around.
the deleted scenes, they definitely played the Adam as a Cylon line a lot harder.
Really?
Yeah, through everything I've watched for season 1 so far, yeah, that's the way they played it. Was when Ty was in charge for a little bit coming up, like it was a very much like a, oh no, you're a fracking Cylon and we know it kind of a look he's giving them the whole time. And yeah,
Was there any edited?
It's something they changed.
Was there any edited scenes where Leoben whispered, "Boxy is a Cylon"?
It could be, which that segues.
I was gonna say Boxy's one of the final 5, like Adega said earlier.
Yeah, that segues actually right into we got another Boxy theory from Adega. On his rescue trip from Caprica, Boxy asked too many questions and pushed every button he saw. Boomer became quite frustrated with him after he almost launched missiles. Once on the Galactica, Boomer tossed Boxy on the deck, swearing at him. No one wanted to take Boxy, so Adama had Colonel Ty take him. Ty put him to work polishing shoes and cleaning floors. Boxy never stopped pushing buttons and asking why. What does this do? Until he accidentally jumped the ship. Ty fixed the problem by letting Boxy push his last button inside the narrow.
That is beautiful, narratively beautiful.
That is freaking. That is a masterpiece.
Quite a few buttons too.
And you know what?
Boxy the button pusher.
Still better than The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh my god.
Well, I don't know. He did know how to push the button and all. I mean, that's kind of.
Boxy was a Mary Sue. How did he get trained to push buttons?
Yeah. How did he know?
Mm-hmm.
Why were his warning lights yellow? Why weren't they orange? Why weren't they red?
Right? So some interesting interactions when Leoben is standing in the airlock. There's the thing, he puts his hand up there, Kara puts her hand up there, and then as Leoben is sucked out the airlock, Rosalind realizes the event is, it's the same as how her other previous dreams ended. So she now is starting to think these are more visions than dreams. They're visions in dreams, but they're definitely prophetic. And then, we go to that sequence on the Galactica where Starbuck's in her quarters, and as Stephen mentioned, she takes out the prayer statues, and we up till now, of course, we hadn't seen Kara do any of this. It was only after this whole thing with Leoben that now she's really reconnecting with her religion, and so she prays to the Lord's Cobalt to take care of his soul, and it goes against her previous belief that she didn't think his soul would ever reach God. And then to kind of wrap up, Rosalind meets with Adama over the events, and she is you can tell body language and interaction wise, she is definitely suspicious of Adama. So
yeah,
and that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So anybody have any sort of thoughts on Starbuck, just reconnecting with their faith and really believing that, like actually praying for this guy?
Well, I see it as her trying to sort of counteract the assumption that he made about soldiers treating prisoners like objects. It may have been the attitude she had trying to get the information given the context, but what he did share with her allowed her to sort of connect with him in a way she wasn't expecting, and sort of allowed her to hold on to her own humanity instead of just being a monstrous person torturing him and eventually killing him, especially in the manner given what the president has done, because she didn't want to throw him at the airlock. She felt there was something else of value with this guy. And Rosalind, I mean, you can say either her dreams are prophetic or maybe she's just making sure that her dreams become reality herself, because she's the one that made the choice. It wasn't a prophecy usually comes out of a fate or an inaction, but this one here is a direct correlation to what she chose to do in this situation. So she's so that's something interesting to take a look at, especially in future episodes when those dreams become a bit more frequent.
There's also something to be said for the way that they portrayed Rosalind after her first dream. She was like, hopped up on that medicine. She's weak. I mean, every time we see her.
Yeah, she's now on the Kamala.
The Kamala, yeah. So every time we see her, every time we see her projecting strength, she's having to concentrate to control herself and project that strength twice as hard as anyone else would, because we know that how the Kamala extract is affecting her, and that the perception of that, I think, is different depending upon the person viewing the show. I think that someone who is maybe not a spiritualist, or maybe someone who doesn't dabble in any kind of herbology, would look at that and think that, she's just suffering some kind of reaction to the Kamala extract that's making her weak and giving her delusions and wicked dreams and things like that, which can certainly happen under stress, sickness, and medication. But there's also another aspect, a more spiritual aspect to it, which is, and if you are a spiritualist who uses different types of herbs in their work, you're seeing a person who is sick, who is using a sacred plant or a sacred extract, and is having actual visions. Being able to tap into the divine, whatever you think that to be. And so I call that. I mean, just as a spiritualist myself, when I saw that initially, that's what I thought. I had this kind of dual look at how the character and the story arc was being portrayed. And now that I'm watching it again, after the 10th time, watching this great series, I still get that feeling. Depending upon who you are, would depend on how you would interpret that character going through what she's going through with the Kamala extract.
Yeah, I always saw it more as a spiritual thing more than anything else.
Well, it leads into that. That's definitely leading into that, But you think about, depending on what kind of research you've done or what kind of history you've looked into, there's various different cultures from ancient to today that use different herbs and things to induce like those kinds of visions. So
that's another one of the deleted scenes. Is Billy admits that his uncle, the monk, they used to use the herbs.
Oh, really?
To reach a higher plane of
And they probably cut that out to keep the mystery alive.
Oh yeah. Because it wasn't really spoken about much, it was just always kind of this little mystery that they were able to find in amongst the fleet somehow.
Yeah. I'd also like to say that from this point forward, I'll be counting how many times my future ex-wife, Candace McClure, is in every episode, because that's my thing. And she was only in this episode twice, and I am upset by this.
As you should be.
I love you,
Candace. She does a lot of background shots, man.
She was in a lot of background shots. She had very few lines.
Oh yeah, okay. If we're counting lines, all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're not going to get jealous in the future of this when we get to some of her more prevalent scenes, are you?
I will live vicariously through those actors.
He's gonna have a bottle of Hennessy and be howling at the moon.
Nice. Yeah, the
Yeah, we'll get a mechanic art just so we can make it even better.
Cigar. Nice. Oh my gosh. Well, I thought overall this episode it was fascinating.
It was tight.
It was a really good it was a really good allegory on what the current events of the time were. It was also just it really made you think, and it set up things. I mean, this episode just checked every single box of good that you can have in a television episode. You know,
It's also one of the shorter episodes too.
yeah.
Going in at 43 minutes.
It was a very tight episode. Everything had a good pace, good beat to it.
Tight.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Tight.
It's my favorite word. Thanks, Chris.
It wasn't very thick. It was nice and tight.
Yeah.
Tight.
Well, no, this episode was just well put together, and
it ran very well.
it was this one was written by Tony Graffia, and who was a very good writer in his own right.
Yeah, I'd say.
Same as Bradley Thompson and David Weddle. And like I said, just from start to finish, episode was, in my opinion, perfectly paced, and it really just again, it just had a smorgasbord of everything. The interactions between Kara and Leoben were outstanding. That scene that stole the show between Angel 6 and Baltar and Sharon when they were testing her.
What was the writer's name again? You said
Tony Sophia.
Well, listen, Tony had some very manipulative in-laws because the way he wrote Leoben was great.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I mean, that was awesome, and overall, I thought this episode it grew to be one of my favorites. I didn't at the time when it aired give it its full due, but this definitely grew to be one of my favorites after multiple rewatchings of the series. So yeah, I definitely loved this episode. This one was easily an 8.5 for me.
Man, I'm glad you went high because I was about to go high. This episode is a 9, straight up. I would have given it a little higher than a 9 if they had my future ex-wife had a few more scenes, a couple more lines, a couple more shots. But no, really, I love this episode from the first time I saw it because I saw them as they aired. And you're right, it was very relevant to the times. But like Star Trek, it took something that was relevant to the times and presented it to you in a mortal theme. In a theme that you could look at years later and still understand the impact of what was going on, the decision making and the treatment of this prisoner of war, basically, or this terrorist. And you look at how we view people like that. I mean, through Kara Thrace, who's looking at this machine, this terrorist that is only there to sabotage, that has committed genocide against her race, as a thing, and how in the end you find out that she is not. She was acting as mechanical as she accused Leoben of being. And by the end, you find out that she indeed does have feelings and that interaction impacted her. It also showed the strength of Laura Roslin. This is the episode that made me, I was totally down with Laura Roslin after this episode. She straight spaced the mofo. Just throw him out the airlock. That's some balls. She had my respect, that character, after this episode. I think that I mean, everyone else was great. There wasn't really much character improvement or embellishment in anyone else, really, except for Athena, Sharon, Caprica Sharon at this point, because she's making that change she's actually falling in love with Hilo. She's fallen in love at this point.
We're starting to
And-
see that.
Right, which is why the pregnancy takes, and in the theme of the story. Baltar, Sable, Baltar, good to see him. Trisha, always love seeing Trisha. Still trying to figure out what happened to Boxy, but Agenda's working on that. So for me, this episode was great, and I love the character Lee Oben. He's one of those characters I love to hate because he's so good and so well written and well acted. This episode is a 9.
It's like it's like what they say, where you know how they describe wrestling, Steven, when you're writing a good heel.
Mm-hmm.
A good heel just has that instant connection with the crowd where they've got natural heat that they can get from the crowd. And Lee Oben is one of those that is like just from the jump. He's got that connection with the audience, and he's like that outstanding heel.
Yeah.
I caught him in some Netflix series last year towards the end of the year, and it was hard not to hate him at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
So, this guy's so good. That's why
he's a good
that's
actor.
why this one rates so high for me. It sold me on the majority of the actors.
Mm-hmm.
So
I knew they weren't just having one-off fluke episodes.
So Bear, what rating would you give it? What were your final thoughts?
I give it an 8.5.
Okay. So you and I are right.
Rosalind pretty much proved that she has conviction and is willing to do what needs doing and knows what's what. She proved that pretty good, and I wouldn't want to be that woman's enemy. Nope.
What was the
Tough.
biggest thing? What was the biggest thing you think stood out to you?
She got information from Leoben that she didn't expect to. I think that's what stood out.
Okay.
Plus, she had that very odd, weird dream that basically Leoben had something to tell her, and that's why she went over there. And she's thinking it's side effects of Kamala she's taking, and who knows? It could be side effects. It could be opening doorways in her mind, and there's things now that can do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was almost like to me, Bear, the theory of what people do with peyote or DMT, stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems more like DMT than cannabis to me.
Well, no,
It's just the way they represented it. It was almost like it was cannabis, but it definitely seemed more like it was DMT with the side effects and the way it was hitting her.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you gotta understand the people that take peyote. They don't consider it a drug. It's considered a sacrament in ceremony.
Yeah. But saying
there are people out there that will abuse it and stuff like that.
But I'm saying it has a similar effect. It can trigger a dream like that, or a sort of dream state like that.
Just careful what you pray for. Creator might give it to you.
All right. Well, I mean, apparently Leoben is God, and he said, "You are sin, and sin is evil."
Oh man! All right, Script Doctor. Well,
yes.
What were your thoughts overall, and what rating?
Well, I don't usually rate the episodes. I just find this is a really great episode. It's also a great example on how to get across exposition in a very masked way, because Kara had a goal, which was to get information about how many Cylons are in the fleet, what are their plans, what are they planning to do, and the Cylons' goal was basically create a mentality of sabotage mentality of the people in the fleet and stay alive, because he doesn't want to lose his so-called soul, since they're so far away from a relay station, or if at all. Like he might die, and his transmission might take decades or centuries before it finds a relay station to upload again. So he has that fear, and those separate goals conflict with each other, and allows them to get away with exposition because there's always an honest motivation behind what they're saying, what they're asking, and what they're revealing to each other. So we get a whole slew of brilliant information and character development from these two characters, and it doesn't feel like it's being ham-fisted to us or spoon-fed to us or blatant or lazy. It's all intriguing. We're all sitting on the edge of our seats because they've established the context of what's going on with this scene, and they gave us the nice little ticking clock of that nuclear device, which detours the interrogation to, instead of it being about the overall aspect of the Cylons infiltrating the fleet, it's about this one specific thing now, but the goals are still in play. And it's just a great example of really good writing, and also being able to develop characters without having to have one character tell the other character how they're feeling or who they are and all that stuff. It's highbrow and also really accessible. I love it.
Script Doctor, I never really felt this way, but you have a purty mouth.
Well, I use chapstick, so you know.
He's got them party words.
Well said, brother. Well said.
Oh yeah, you think you summed it up really well, ST. Good job.
Oh yeah.
All right. So Brian, what was your final thoughts on the episode? What rating would you give it, and what stood out for you?
This one be like a high 8 for me, like 8.75 or something, because like I said, this is one of my first episodes when I started watching, and like it was interesting enough that it caught my attention, which with like all the randomness that was on sci-fi at the time. But like it's a solid 8 just because, like how SD said, it's nice and tight, and you can watch it over and over again, and you can figure out a lot. Like I think I've had it running 3 times now over the short time we've been chatting.
Wow!
And it's a real short runtime and lots of character development and intrigue.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, I think that this also points out that production and writing really mean a lot. Considering that I think Sharknado came out around this time. So get the correct writers when you do a show.
Oh, yeah.
No, Brian's right. There's the character development wasn't broad. I mean, it wasn't like across the board. It was very concentrated, but it was a lot. It was very
small increments with everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you got to see Rosalind finally be a badass. You got to see Adama play like more of a passive role in this episode.
Yeah.
Like both Adamas were like just not used very much. And
no, we only had the one scene, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very female-driven episode. It was trippy.
And that's right. And Candace only had 2 lines. 2 lines.
But notice the conviction of the characters. Like, it was a female-driven episode, but it didn't play to showboat that it was a female-driven episode.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, note to Hollywood.
It was the classy way to do it.
This is how you do it.
It's like Disney during the 5-volt era. You don't get that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
You give us great characters who happen to be whatever.
Yeah.
That's what this was. The women were killing it in this episode.
Oh yeah.
They are. But they're good characters on their own. There's no look at me, I'm a woman. There isn't any. There is
no sisters are doing it for themselves, like Anthem in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is just great casting and great acting all around. There's no, hey, look, we're checking the virtue box, and that's what's so good about this. This is such a diverse show. And even, people that now, like the SJWs that we deal with in our entertainment guys, they don't even give stuff like this credit. And my God, this was what, granted 16 years ago, but they don't even give stuff like this credit. And, they're like, they act like there wasn't strong female characters and women killing it on television and in movies until like a year or two ago.
Oh God, since the golden age of Hollywood, the silver screen had so many women that were powerful presences in movies.
So, I mean, we won't get started on a rant with that, guys, but that
Okay, sorry.
encapsulates it in a nutshell. And Thomas Connolly, bottom line, it was just a good show, good writing and storytelling. Yes, it was. And episode 8 stood out for that reason.
Yep.
And next week we're gonna have a pretty good thing. We'll be on episode 9. I'm trying to remember what the hell the name of episode 9 was. Oh God, it is like I'm having a brain fart.
We're gonna try and find boxing in real life this week, guys.
So mine is Tie Me Up, Ty, right? Or Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down?
Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. We know which one that one is.
Oh, okay, yeah. The one next week.
It's going to be good.
Really quickly, yeah. The one next week is very like lighthearted. There's a lot of actual like comedic moments in it, and and it was done really well. But I thought that they did a masterful job with that episode because it continued the subplots, but there was a lot of comedy and stuff in it, and it really sort of provided like a good levity, because they've so far into the show as we've been watching. They hit you over the head pretty serious from the beginning with like, hey, this is serious business. Well, next week it's going to be a little bit more lighthearted, and we're going to get some good comedy, and it should be really fun because there's a lot of funny moments in that episode.
Is next week's episode? Is that the one where Gaius finds out if she's a real blonde?
Certainly try.
Can't remember that.
He does find out,
but I know that this is where we first meet Ellen, and
Ellen. Yes, Ellen.
And it's funny because they end up basically Lee's there, and there's like a big dinner party with Saul and Ellen and Rosalind Adama and Lee, and it's going to be really it's gonna be really interesting. You guys are going to like that. There'll be a lot of laughs next week. So make sure you tune in.
Laugh riot.
Yeah, make sure you tune in next week's episode for episode season 1, episode 9. Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. It's going to be good, and we will see you guys then. Make sure that you check out everybody's channels. I'll go around really quick and let everybody plug their stuff, starting with Brian the Gravedigger.
Howdy, y'all. I am Brian the Gravedigger. You can catch me here on YouTube on Brian the Gravedigger and over on Twitter at Be the Gravedigger.
Okay. Script Doctor?
I am the Script Doctor. You can find me on Twitter at ScriptDoctorPhD. Also here on YouTube at youtube.com/ScriptDoctor. I'll have some upcoming reviews of Star Trek Picard Episode 6 when I watch that tomorrow. Because I'm not watching it tonight, too busy. And my Mandalorian review my Chapter 8 Mandalorian review should be out this weekend, which I've been way behind on, but eager to get out, and I want to make sure I got it right because I'm working with a really lousy old mic, and I don't know when I'm going to get a new one yet, so I appreciate you putting up with me for that.
And Bear Nerd Fun?
Yeah, you can catch me at Bear Nerd Fun, and you can catch me on the Fourth Wave Saturdays and Wednesdays, along with Script Doctor with us, and Sporking Podcast News, and Final Death Star, Immortal Coil, and the man, the myth, author Stephen Walton himself.
And I am
Great
Script
night.
Doctor's bottom bitch. He occasionally lets me out of his basement to film YouTube videos, and you can find them on my channel, author Stephen Walton. You can also find me on Twitter at Lodonis, Lodonis, but that's only when Daddy Script Doctor lets me. Thank you.
Now get back into your cage.
Get back in your hole.
All right. So we until next week, guys. We bid you good night, and make sure that you go to sci-fi.com. You can watch all the Battlestar episodes there, and watch along with us. Catch up with us. Again, next week we're on episode 9. Time me up, time me down. Do a binge. Catch up with us, and talk in the chat about the episode next week. And we will see you guys then. Have a good night. Peace.
So say we all.
So say we all.
There we are.
So,
So say we all.
so, 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 so,
There we are.